How's it going? I'm Dave Pierdomenico, a usual member of the Philly Film Brothers podcast, which I'm sure you've seen here on Dork Daily as I argue with my brother Chris over a bunch of movies. So today we're talking about The Mandalorian Season 2, and we're doing things a little differently. So I'm actually going to be interviewing a different set of Philly Film Brothers, Jonathan and Justin Hartline. They are two of my very best friends that I've known since I was a little kid. And they also happen to be two of the biggest Star Wars fans I have ever met in my life. So let's go to them for Mandalorian. One more thing. If you haven't watched the season finale or you haven't watched the season yet, stop this right now. Go watch that because we are going to get into major spoilers. You have been warned. Now, let's talk to Jonathan and Justin. We're here to talk about The Mandalorian Season 2, which just ended. I think most of us agree it's probably the best thing to come out of the Disney Star Wars era. Is that a controversial thing to say?
I don't think that's controversial at all now.
Especially not after episode 9.
We don't speak of episode 9. I watched every single movie for 25 hours straight on Star Wars Day earlier this year. We'll put a link to that video in the description. But by the time I got to episode 9, I'd been awake for like 40 hours. And I just had no patience left for it. I wound up, I was so much more harsh on it than I was when I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, it was something.
It was. So anyway, with Mandalorian, just to put it in perspective, I remember, what I first liked about it was it felt like it was the first piece of Star Wars media that didn't directly have to do with the Skywalker family. And I'm like, there's more in this galaxy out there, and it was cool just to have these side quests.
I thought Rogue One was really neat, and that didn't really have to do with the Skywalkers so much. I mean,
it had Darth Vader in it. It counts.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is true. He was at the end.
You look at that scene and I don't know.
The Vader scene was incredible. Oh my god!
It was.
I'm just thinking about parallels with last episode. But
with
again,
Mandalorian.
let's not.
I'm sure
Let's talk about the positive. So, on a positive note, what was everyone's favorite episode or scene moment from season 2 of Mandalorian?
For Mandalorian?
Mm-hmm. I can start if that's easier for you guys. If you want.
If you want to start, I mean, I really liked seeing Ahsoka. I thought she was a very, very high point. And I did freak out when she mentioned Thrawn. He's one of my favorite characters from the EU. So
now, is that the EU that's canon still, or what is the ruling on that? Because I was under the impression
right now.
that much like Brexit, the Disney Star Wars left the EU.
So the EU is the expanded universe. It covers all forms of media outside of the movies. So there was a large portion of the EU that Disney decanonized when they bought Star Wars. They actually decanonized everything that wasn't Clone Wars is the only thing from the previous EU that they kept canon.
Okay.
And after that, anything that was new, like Rebels, is part of the new canon. So anything that was from the old canon, they labeled as, they call it Legends. It takes place in an alternate version of Star Wars, essentially.
Because everyone has a multiverse now.
Well, yeah, except I don't think they like to talk about it anymore.
Fair enough. So, but just the connection to that, you really enjoyed because you felt like they were like bringing that into Mandalorian.
Yeah, well, I mean, Thrawn was a big character in Rebels, and he was a big character in the old EU that they brought into the new canon with Rebels. So he's a fun character. He's really
That's a
neat.
good point. As a horror fan and as a fan of like monster horror, I know it's probably going to be something everyone's going to talk about, that big moment at the season finale. Everyone's going to talk about, the Robert Rodriguez episode where they, and Boba Fett and all that. I really liked the first episode because it was basically a remake of Tremors. What I love about
Dragon.
Yeah, what I love about Mandalorian is that I felt like it was the first time we were exploring this world and the culture and, dare I say, the politics of this world, where you had people on Tatooine, you had the villagers and the Tusken Raiders realizing, hey, we have to unite to defeat this. This thing threatens all of us. I like the idea of that. And I think that episode was kind of the best representation of the Mandalorian and its, how do I word this? My favorite episodes are the ones that I feel like are one-offs, as opposed to like the serialized nature, which I know in like the binge watch culture isn't really as much a thing, but I like the little self-contained stories, and that one was I love watching like, this is like watching Tremors. All we're missing is Kevin Bacon.
Well, that was another one of the cooler things that they did with the crate dragon, because crate dragons have been part of Star Wars since Episode 4. You see one of the skeletons as C-3PO and R2-D2 are walking through the desert, but it's not something that like you would know about unless you were like a really kind of a hardcore into Star Wars.
I will admit I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's not. So just like the little things that they do where they allude to the deeper lore of Star Wars, like I point out to Jonathan, there's episodes where they have loft cats, which are from Rebels originally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like little creatures and things that they come and they bring back and kind of weave into the tapestry of the series. It's really something.
So you're a fan of Star Wars mythos?
Oh yeah, the world building's incredible.
I kind of had like, I guess maybe two that like I really liked. I guess maybe going along kind of similar lines that you were saying, like, well, really more from season 1 when they did like the jailbreak episode was probably my favorite. Just because it was a little more different from like the other episodes, but like this season, like the finale, I think is mostly like what got me, like just like the last part of that. Like I was just in awe, or like, I didn't see it coming, even though I should have.
I mean, the writing was on the wall, and we'll talk a little bit more about that finale in detail later on.
Yeah, I kind of figured I'd save stuff, but yeah.
And I know I've said it before, but at this point, if you have not watched season 2 yet, don't watch this. We are going to spoil the hell out of it. So moving on, was there anything that, I know right now, Mandalorian, it's popular to praise it. Prequels, it's popular to bash it. Was there anything about season 2, specifically season 2, that you felt could have been better, or you're like, I wasn't really into that episode or that storyline or that, character moment?
I should have just binged the series before we got on this thing.
Well, speaking of the finale, one of the things that I'm a bit concerned about is I feel like they kind of tied up a lot of the loose ends, which, I mean, from a certain perspective, I have no idea where they're going to go with it. So that's kind of exciting, but also it's kind of like what happens?
Where do you go with it?
Exactly. Yeah. How's the next season going to connect into what you've already done
Mm-hmm.
when they've like kind of
Yeah.
finished so many of the storylines?
Mhm.
I think the stories that they did have, like along that route, were like really strong stories. But to some extent, like I do think there is like maybe a concern that like with all these new shows that they're going to bring out, that maybe the quality is going to drop.
That's,
Or
a,
like
that's a
it's
fair
not
point.
going to be like as I don't know, like not
Like they're gonna be
as good
too
of a story, or like the writing's
Yeah.
not going to be as good.
they'll be too
because-
focused on just how many shows can we crank out versus I always think of Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park. You spend so much time worrying about whether or not you didn't stop to ask if you should, which I'm not saying that for Mandalorian at all. I am saying that for Solo, a Star Wars story. I will say that about that movie till the day I die.
Solo, I didn't think it was a terrible movie, but it definitely did not need to happen.
Yeah, it just there was no reason it needed to exist, but
it was actually better than I thought it was going to be.
Because you set the bar so low. That's why. And anyway, for me, looking at season 2, I wasn't so I like I like the idea that like there's dispute about Mandalorian legend, like between our main character and like Bo-Katan about, oh well, you can take off your helmet. That's not the point. The point is to get back Mandalore, and that I love that there's like different quote unquote denominations of like what it means to be Mandalorian. And someone on the internet said this to me, and I'm actually hoping, Justin, you might be able to help because it has to do with the greater lore. I was asking about what is the deal? I sound like a comedian. What's the deal with the Darksaber? And you're telling me it's not a lightsaber and it has to be won in battle. I heard that line and I'm like, we're doing the Elder Wand in Star Wars? Is that what we're doing?
Well, it's very much a lightsaber, actually. The Darksaber was created by the first and, as far as I know, only Mandalorian who became a Jedi, like way back in the day.
Okay.
It was stored in the Jedi Temple for a long time, and actually was stolen from there by Pre-Vizsla, I think, by Clone Wars canon. I've only seen Clone Wars once, so
Fair enough.
I really should watch back through the Mandalorian.
I haven't
episode.
seen it. I have a confession. I haven't seen it. I
haven't seen that many episodes either.
That's
That's
why I'm merely hosting, and you guys are my experts here.
So, I mean, as far as the Darksaber goes, it's more symbolic than anything else. Basically, whoever holds the Darksaber can use its power to unite the clans, but its power isn't like really a power. It's more like the symbol.
Okay. So given that point, why does it matter that the Mandalorian took it from Moff Gideon? Can't they just be like, all right, let's just kill Gideon and say that Bo-Katan took it from him? Like, problem solved. But he acted like it was such a big deal. And don't get me wrong, on the subject of Moff Gideon, love him as a villain. I love Giancarlo Esposito. I was a huge fan of Breaking Bad and the 2 episodes of Community that he was on. But I kind of wish they had reversed it and had the big bad guy been played by Werner Herzog from season 1, because that man is like, he's scary when he's just like reading the news or like giving you his lesson. He's a scary man.
I don't know. I think the way that Giancarlo Esposito plays the characters is it's so underrated. Like he plays a character that is immoral, but he plays them so cold. Like you just feel like he just doesn't care. And
like Gus Fring.
something like so exactly like Gus Fring.
But I'm just saying that Werner Herzog scared me more.
I don't know. I thought Herzog did a very good job. I would never want to get rid of Space Gus. I mean,
Hashtag Space Gus. Get that trending. So I think we have to discuss. We have to talk about that finale and maybe back up a little and everything leading up to that finale. So I don't know. I mean, as I said, I kind of like the one-off stories, and this season kind of went more towards serialized, which kind of tends to happen with most, any movie or TV show. But I remember how I said it was nice to have something that didn't have to do with a Skywalker. Well, I'm not saying it was a cool moment. It was a cool storyline, like when he found Baby Yoda and he's gonna like bring him back to the Jedi. And now it happened, and it's I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm rambling.
Well, I feel like they didn't have a whole lot of options in terms of directions they could go with that. There aren't that many Jedi that are out there post-Imperial era. I mean, most of the Jedi are dead. I mean, there's Ezra Bridger from Rebels. There's Cal Kestis from Fallen Order, the game, and Ahsoka and Luke. I think are the only ones that I know of.
Does it have to be somebody that we met though?
Yeah, that's a good point. You could introduce.
I think if anybody else was like on that X-wing, I would have been just as satisfied with the ending, I think.
Well, the thing is, they set up all the foreshadowing for it to be Luke, because it was an X-wing. He comes out in the black robes, which, I mean, he rocked in Return of the Jedi.
And the green lightsaber.
The green lightsaber, the one glove.
It would have been such
Michael
a twist
Jackson
if it
style.
wasn't him.
No, I just and it kind of goes back, and this is perhaps a question that will be answered later. I kind of want to know, first of all, and I actually made a meme about this that went semi-viral on Twitter, where at some point Grogu's at the Jedi Temple, and I guess they're like, hey, listen, I know that we got to let Anakin join the council, but maybe let's not tell him about Grogu in case he like massacres the young ones. I told you, I brought this conversation back to Anakin.
He's been through 2 Jedi Temple massacres. Like,
see,
you gotta
like,
feel for the kid.
You don't know that he was there when Ben massacred Luke's Jedi Temple, though.
That's the other thing. From, like you're like, oh, he's gonna go off and train to be a Jedi. It's gonna be, and then you remember like Ben Solo. Oh, then you remember he's not in the sequel trilogy. Oh,
Ben just like texts Grogu. He's like, "Don't come to the Jedi Temple today." Okay, that's dark. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, the sequel trilogy takes place like 25 years after where we are now, so he'd only be like 2 years older in Yoda years.
So he'd be like toddler Yoda. Throwing his temper tantrums because you won't let them open the fridge and just stand there. I'm sorry, I'm just speaking from experience with my Tom. Who does that?
I'm sure you know more about that portion of it than I do.
She opens the fridge and I'm like, you can, if you want something, cool, but you can't just open the fridge and then stand there.
It's probably not a problem this time of year, but yeah.
So I don't want to say that it was definitely a satisfying ending for me. To the season. A part of me is like, could we just get that one thing that's not directly about the Skywalkers, and nothing against the Skywalkers. And, with all the new shows coming out, I'm sure we'll get it, but I kind of want to see more like genre bending, like we've done Western. As a horror fan, I'd love to see a horror movie set in this world.
I mean, I kind of thought there were definitely some horror aspects with like the finale or like the Dark Troopers that they had, just because they were so.
You mean the super
like
battle
Terminator.
droids on steroids?
Yeah. It was like Terminator.
I've already
but,
seen
like,
super battle droids.
Star Wars. But like you have to admit, like that was really cool when like he like lit the one on fire, and it's
it was
staring
cool.
at him, like.
I'm just saying that I guess for me they weren't as intimidating as I was more intimidated by Snoke and his guards, and they looked like they were on the set of a Target commercial.
Well, Snoke had all the weird force powers too, which I think is probably most of it. I mean, when you get droids, they're robots. You have the super strength aspect to them, but I mean, there's only so much you can do with them. I mean, as far as force users go, you can pull out really weird force powers, like in episode 7 when he stopped that blaster bolt at the beginning. I was just like,
it looked cool.
It was cool.
So, I guess still on the subject of the finale. Where do we? I know we talked about this a little bit. Where do we see the series going, and I guess the franchise itself going, disregarding the petitions to redo the sequel trilogy? They kind of learned from their fellow Disney brethren, Marvel, with a post-credit tease at something coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, there were rumors that there was going to be a Boba Fett series for a long time before that, and I was kind of surprised that they didn't announce that there was going to be one when they announced Ahsoka and Marshals of the Republic and all that other.
Because they were waiting for.
Yeah, they were holding it, which was kind of cool.
I want to know. I have one big question around. It was awesome seeing Boba Fett back and getting the same. What's his name? Tamura Morrison.
Yeah.
Back. Reprising. I love the callback when Bo-Katan was like, not your father, your donor clone. I was like, oh damn. He just roasted. But I really want to know, what New Republic dry cleaner did he take that armor to? Because it is all beat up and dirty in the one episode, and then some of the next one, it looks like he just bought it brand new.
Well, it still had the ding in it, which was pretty cool that they kept that. But yeah,
but you saw how clean.
It was a cool
Where
paint
did he
job.
go?
Yeah, it was pretty faded like the first time we put it on.
Like I would love to see the restoration shop reality show like you'd see on History Channel, but on Coruscant. People bring us we don't care if it's covered in dirt, dust, if it's burnt. See this armor? This was swallowed by a Sarlacc. We can fix it up for you. It looked comically clean based on how it was the previous episode.
To be honest, it looked clean even compared to the way most stuff in Star Wars is, because Star Wars has a very
is that something behind you?
No, the tree just turned itself off, but the clapper I have it hooked up to is a little sensitive.
It's also Darth Vader.
It doesn't like me sometimes.
Oh, it's not going to do it because your headphones are on. Usually I turn on his
screen. Laughing there.
There it is.
So anyway, yeah. So Star Wars is kind of known for being sci-fi where stuff looks aged, and that's realistic, at least to me it is. But I think it makes sense that he would have gotten it cleaned. I just want to know where.
Well, it seems like you would think he wouldn't care very much about the aesthetic, because even throughout the original trilogies, the armor had a very worn, beat up looking paint job. But he definitely needed to do something with it after he got it back out of the Sarlacc, because it was pretty ratty looking.
and I'll say I do love the idea of him taking over the sort of Hutt crime syndicate. Do we think, is Boba Fett going to be the Tony Soprano of Tatooine? Is that what his show's going to be about?
That's kind of the thing I'm a little concerned about. Like, I guess we talked a little bit about, like, where the show is going to go at this point. But, like, one of the things is, like, they already have a Mandalorian show. And, like, the Mandalorian essentially turned into Baby Yoda because that's all everybody was, like, just about Grogu. And it seemed like it was more his story, but now you have these two shows that are both going to be about Mandalorians that just so happen to be bounty hunters. And like,
well,
I don't
technically,
know how...
Boba Fett's not a Mandalorian. He's a Camino in a Caminoite.
Well, he was cloned.
Yeah,
I don't know that if they claimed in that one episode that his father was a foundling, which is essentially he was adopted by the Mandalorians. Mm-hmm. So he was, I would say that would make him a Mandalorian, but
well, based on his accent, I think he's probably from like Australia or New Zealand. That part of the galaxy.
Well, there was a lot of ocean, like.
So yeah, I see your point, Jonathan, just about, Mandalorians are popular, and that's kind of the point I was trying to drive, that I'm okay with you having like 10 different TV shows set in the Star Wars world.
Yeah.
But I want them to be different enough. I want to see that horror show. I want to see a slasher where a guy uses a lightsaber. I want to see the House of Cards style political thriller about the New Republic, where we get into the trade routes and blockades and boycotts and trade franchises, where the Trade Federation is
CNN.
No one will watch that show. no, I would watch it. No one else would. I wonder how the Mandalorian representative will vote on the new tax this week. So what would you guys most like to see? Let's say, because this is happening nowadays, Disney's like, you guys are Star Wars fans. Here's a bunch of money. Go make a show. Like that meme. What Star Wars show do you make?
Right now, I'm really excited for Ahsoka. I think they're probably going to do live action Thrawn, which I would be thrilled for, just because I really like the character. Trying to think what else you could do with Star Wars, because you could take it in a lot of different directions.
That's what I mean. You could do any genre just set in this world.
I mean, as far as horror stuff is concerned, they have Dathomir, which is a very kind of creepy type planet. They have this whole kind of force cult there called they call themselves the Witches, and they have these like weird force powers that are they call it like dark magic, or they have like very zombies and that kind of thing, which is is very, very much, I think, in your wheelhouse. But
That does. I was gonna say that what you're describing. It sounds very Lovecraftian, especially if they have some sort of ancient book that they're doing all this from.
I don't think they generally have like a book. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's that whole aspect of it was very weird. They had a couple good episodes on Clone Wars about them, and what's his face? Darth Maul was actually from Dathomir.
I hear he's going to be featured again in the Obi-Wan series. I've heard rumors. Has it been all but confirmed that Hayden Christensen's back?
That has been confirmed. Yeah, he's going to be Darth Vader. At this point, I can't imagine, unless they're doing flashbacks. I'm thinking they're going to put him in the armor, but if they're putting him in the armor, I don't know what the point is, because they can't do Darth Vader without James Earl Jones's voice.
All right, I'm going to say something that's probably going to piss off a bunch of Star Wars fans. I don't know that I heard his voice in Rogue One, and I love James Earl Jones. He is a legend, and we are blessed that he is still, with us. His voice does not quite sound the same. And
no.
I've just incurred the wrath of just, no, I'm serious.
Well, they could just do what they did with Luke and doctor it up a little bit.
I mean, at least it would footage, at least it would look good. I've yet to. I know Star Wars has kind of done this a lot, and sometimes they've done it out of necessity. But I've yet to see a CGI de-aged face that didn't look weird. I've never seen one that said, you know what, that looks like a real person's face. And I'm not just picking on Star Wars. I mean, in general, like Tron Legacy, The Irishman, all that stuff.
I'm not sure the technology has quite caught up yet. I thought that what they did with Luke in the finale was pretty decent. It was the best that I think
I've seen. It is.
Yeah.
How about you, Jonathan? What show would you want to either make or what would you like to most see going forward?
Well, if you're doing something that's really different from anything that's out there, I would want maybe a cop or detective show of some sort.
Or a buddy cop comedy. The no-nonsense veteran and the young wisecracking one, put them together. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're going with established characters, I kind of want more of Khan and Chewbacca, though, also. Just because it would be interesting to see what Chewbacca's up to now that Han's gone, but more, how did they lose the Falcon? And why did they suddenly care about it in episode 7? How much time really passed that it was sitting on not Tatooine.
I mean, yeah,
Jakku, yes. Thank you.
They say, oh yeah, that racist, oh, that ship, that's been here forever.
Yeah.
You don't get the sense that this happened a week ago and Han's just been looking for it.
Yeah.
And why did he never think to how did he not know?
Yeah. There's definitely a story there that I'd like to hear. And it's probably more interesting than why C-3PO had a red arm. Because that was just
the ultimate mystery. What I want to know is, and this is something that's kind of been overlooked in Mandalorian, they kind of confirmed the whole midichlorian thing when they talk about the count in Grogu's blood. They don't call it midichlorians, but they're like, oh yeah, we're testing his blood. We know what they're testing for. Space Gus, you can say it.
I think midichlorians are definitely one of the more controversial things that the prequels added to Star Wars lore. Personally, and I'm not sure of the canonicity of this, but I prefer to take it more as the midichlorians like grow in people that already have the Force. They don't necessarily create the Force. Is the way that I'm going to take it in my head canon, because I don't want to believe that the Force is caused by space germs.
I always saw it not that it's caused by it, but that if someone doesn't have, like, the Force is, for lack of a better term, this force that's everywhere, and if you have midichlorians, you are able to tap into it. If you don't have it, you can't tap into it, and it's kind of more like that. Kind of like how a person can be, like psychic or not psychic. Oh, well, I'm just, I'm sensitive to that, or, I don't sense that at all.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that saying the same thing, that if you have it and that means you can tap into the Force, then your ability to tap into the Force is caused by the midichlorians?
All right, you know what? I have a new TV show idea. We're going to do this like, it's going to be about the scientists doing studies on midichlorians. It'll be like one of those movies about like Charles Darwin or something, where he's like, I've discovered midichlorians. I think that would
just do Osmosis Jones, but inside a Jedi.
Oh my God, that's $1 billion idea. All right, before we wind up, I didn't think this conversation would lead to midichlorians, and I'm sorry that it did. For those of us watching, back to Mandalorian, just to kind of wrap the whole thing up. Is there any other final things you like, didn't like, franchise moving forward? What else do you what are your other thoughts on The Mandalorian season 2?
Well, it was funny because, like, I was thinking a little earlier after we were done talking about it, like, one of the things that really kind of surprises me on the show is it'll be like, certain amount of time will pass, and like, the Mandalorian just goes out and finds somebody because he needs them for a job, and he knows exactly where they are because, like,
because he's a bounty hunter. That's what, like, he does.
Yeah, but like it's just like you think about it, and it's like, okay, there's a galaxy full of like different hospitable planets where people are living, probably trillions of people. You last saw them on this planet, but like, what are the odds that they're still there? Like, how did he find Bo-Katan again? Like, you have to figure she had her own agenda, and she is probably more of a person who would be incognito than like whatever typical layperson that like you're trying to find.
I don't know, because it seemed like she wanted him to join her. So she could have left him some kind of contact information or something.
Yeah, but like when he walks into the room, it's like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like she's expecting him. He's just like, he goes to the bar and she's there.
He must have followed her on Twitter, and she posts all the stuff she's up to.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he looked at her Foursquare or something. And was
Is that still a thing?
I don't know. I haven't really.
I haven't heard of Foursquare in years. If it's still a thing, I don't know. Maybe I never got into it.
I know some people who are still doing it, but like, yeah, I don't know.
Not ironically.
Might be more because they haven't moved on. I don't know.
Maybe. How about you, Justin?
I honestly have no idea where they're going from here, because I can't see them doing more Mandalorian without Grogu. He was such a big part of the backbone of what was the show, and I'm not sure where they go from here.
Maybe there's a time skip.
Well, maybe they could,
because that
do a time
always
skip.
works with TV shows. I actually hate it when TV shows do that.
Maybe they're gonna jump ahead a number of years, and Grogu is like hiding in his tent, and he's like calling, "Hey, bounty hunter dad, listen, this guy Ben is like going nuts over here. Can you come get me?" And that's how he got out. Bet you that's what happened.
Oh my god.
Will he be like 70 by then? I mean,
Well, you know, he aged. Well, Grogu ages differently. I know
Who does?
Mandalorian ages. We know he's humanoid. I also love. I don't know if they planned this ahead of time, but there were all those rumors before the season started airing that Pedro Pascal had quit, and then all of a sudden, in like the last couple episodes, he's showing his face, and it's like Disney, like, "See, we told you he didn't quit. You want us to prove it? Here."
I hadn't seen that rumor, yeah.
I mean,
I think,
so much for not. Wasn't like his whole thing like never take off the mask?
well, I think a lot
It
of
was,
this
but,
season
like,
was
he's-
kind of trying to steer him away from that.
He's also a little, more desensitized to that with like this season, or like, he's met other bounty hunter friends who don't really care about showing their face.
Also, he should be really, really pale.
You would think.
He should be. Like, if you never saw, if your skin never saw the sun. I don't know.
Or
Anyways,
maybe just like a T10 line.
just that would be awesome. They should digitally add that.
I mean, they took out the T-shirt guy. Like, why not like retrofit
What?
that?
They
into
should have
stickers?
left him in. Part of the fun with that in movies is you can go back and revisit, like, oh yeah, there's that guy. Like, I know in E.T. there's a scene where you can see Spielberg in the reflection of the guy's astronaut helmet.
Huh.
And I think they were gonna take it out, but then they decided to leave it in because they're like, it's part of the movie. It's like part of the history of it that was a mistake.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been surprised if, like, after that episode aired, if somebody hadn't created an entry on Wikipedia about him, like just a whole like backstory.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's an internet campaign, hashtag release the t-shirt guy cut. All right, so I think, we're all very excited to see where this goes. Hopefully we don't have to wait too long. I don't know. Are they doing it next year? I know
I have no idea when it's coming back.
I know with everything, having been shut down this year, they're probably behind.
Yeah, like I think their set is like pretty interesting though. Where like I don't know. There was something about like what they do with that like I don't know how effective they are.
I just know like a lot of shows that were supposed to, a lot of stuff that came out this year, they had filmed back in like 2019, but that like over the next year, we're going to kind of, not just with this, but with a lot of media, you're going to see that gap where, we weren't filming anything for months and months.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, thank you both for joining me. Do you have any plugs where the people can find you?
I'm on Twitter, but to be honest, I don't know my handle offhand. I barely ever use it.
All right. So if anyone wants to find you guys, just be like Mando and just randomly know where you are.
Yeah,
That works for me.
All right.
Just talk about Star Wars on the internet. I'm sure I will find you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you both for joining.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun.
All right. Well, thank you for watching that. Those of you who stuck around. You can check out all the other videos here on Dork Daily. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, blah, 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 YouTube stuff. You can also find me over at my other website if you're interested in horror, Halloween year-round. Link to that in the description. And let us know, what did you think of Mandalorian Season 2? Tell us in the comments. Tell us what you hope to see. What other movies and shows do you want to see us cover next? So until then, may the Force be with you.